All right. Oh, hey. We should probably check something here. Yes, we did do this incorrectly. I am sorry. Hopefully that's working. Yes, looks like we're getting a response here. Good. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Let's get started. So this is the NewPreneur Club, episode 5. Today we're talking about embassies. So last week we talked about the importance of owning your own platform and all the reasons why that is important. So you can go back in episode 4 and take a listen to that and see what that was all about. But today we're going to talk about the importance of having embassies and what that looks like. So, embassies, again, we're going back to the concept that Michael Hyatt put forward when it comes to sharing things on social media and that sort of thing. That is an embassy. So it is just where you don't live, but you visit or you send an ambassador to, if you want to call it that. So whether that's Facebook or YouTube, like you might be viewing this now on either of those platforms, or a podcast, even to some, if you're podcasting to some other person's platform, um, Instagram, LinkedIn, all these things are things that are run by other people, right? So that becomes their home. You're serving at their home as an embassy. And so I just listed podcasting, which I just realized is probably not a good example. A podcast is actually a good example of a platform because that is something that you typically own and control. These days, there are podcast platforms that allow you to just host your show on them, which you don't control. So you want to be careful about doing those for the right reasons and in the right ways. Now, the important thing to remember about embassies is that they are a fantastic way to connect with people and serve. But ultimately, to be successful, you need something to have them guided back to your platform. And this is something that there are times where it's perfectly appropriate just to give straight information. And that works to build you up as a brand. But ultimately, you kind of can view those as lost opportunities if you're not giving them somewhere to go, some way to participate with you in the future. So if I tell you right now to go to djeshelman.com, that's a call to action that points to my platform. And so I'm not telling you to go visit my Facebook page. I'm not telling you to go subscribe to my YouTube channel, which you totally should go subscribe to. But right now I'm telling you to go to djeshelman.com. Now, that's just an example, call to action. What we could do also with that is to say, okay, what actions do we want them to take while they're there? You know, that can be another thing you can do. So basically what we're doing is we're using that connection we've made with other people on a embassy, whether that's through a Facebook post or a Twitter post or a YouTube video or a LinkedIn video or a Facebook video, whatever that looks like. What you're doing is actually making sure that people are getting the content, which is the most important thing, connecting with you, which is also important, but also being action takers. You want to attract those people that are willing to basically stop what they're doing that day and take an action. And so you're doing a pattern interrupt right there. So you're saying, you know what, I want you to go to this URL or whatever the action step is, click on the link in the description. Those kind of things you hear all the time. Well, those are call to actions. And those are what we want people to do when we're serving from an embassy. Now, a couple things to keep in mind here. The reason we have embassies is to do outreach, but we need to remember that we're not in control of that. We're not in control of when people see that. This is especially true. It was true 5 years ago, but these days it is much more of a reality that we don't control when people are seeing our posts. We can put things out there. Anytime you post something on Facebook, for example, you're just hoping that the Facebook display algorithms are going to work in your favor for those users, for those people. So that is something that you have to keep in mind. Now, there are ways to boost that. In other words, you're giving Facebook, for example, money to actually display your content. And so that is something you do have the option of doing, as a boost a post. I'm not really a big fan of that, or at least doing that very often. It doesn't really have a lot of cost effectiveness. It's a very expensive way to get out your material, but at the same time, it's done in such a way that can be a little more approachable. And so there are some things about doing like a Facebook ad, for example, that makes some sense as a boosted post. But having an actual structured ad is another way you can use an embassy to actually get people to take action at your website and to interact with you directly. And there are people have done this in various different ways. You see this with people that have like stores, for example, where they have something for sale, and they will try and highlight something and guide you directly there, either through a post or an ad. Or what I really like to do is combine. And so you have not only the educational part of it, where you're actually interacting, but you are actually giving them something to look at as far as ads as well. And so it kind of serves as a reminder. There's various ways to do that, and I'm not an expert in those. That's something that I'm actually in the process of hiring experts to do that for me right now, because I'm actually really bad at it. But the concepts are that you are serving an embassy, serving somebody else's platform. And so keep that in mind, that your goal there is to serve first. And that's really the most important thing you can remember about having embassies you work with. Now, the other thing that I think is really good guidance, and something that I've taken to heart, is taking the time to actually find out where your people are. Where is your audience? For example, the audience I'm trying to reach these days is apparently much more on Facebook and YouTube. And so that is areas that I focus in on. Now, it doesn't mean you ignore the other embassies completely. What it means is you want to focus, and focus your energies, focus your budget, focus those things on the places people are hanging out to hear your message. And so that could be a variety of different things. But if people aren't finding me on LinkedIn for this content, for example, which I think that's another embassy that I'll probably be uh, bumping up soon. But if they're not finding me on LinkedIn today for this, they find me on LinkedIn for other stuff today. So it doesn't make sense for me to put a bunch of ad spend on LinkedIn, for example, for this, or to do a lot of content on this and to focus in on that. It doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. What you want to do is have a primary, at least one, not more than three different embassies that you are focused on. And so if you do a lot with uh, creating physical products, for example, Instagram, um, Pinterest, places like that are really good platforms for you to participate in and serve, and guide people back towards your platforms from there. It's also a good place to actually do advertising if you're ready for that. And so those are the things you can do. So if you're trying to grow a following, definitely find out where they are first and serve them from that place. And so if they are in, like I said, Instagram's a good example of that. Getting Instagram followers and collaborating with other people that are on Instagram, and just gaining an audience through serving in their space is super, super important. And at some point in the future, we're going to talk about what to do with people once they arrive on your site, and some ways you can retain that instead of just having that singular one time to actually interact with them. We're going to show you some ways you can actually interact with them multiple different times, and the beauty of that. So that'll be on a upcoming show of the Newpreneur Club. I do thank you for joining me today, and hope you have a wonderful and blessed day. Whatever you're doing out there, make sure you're leaving it better than you found it. Cheers, everybody.